Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amanda McKee. I'm the head of knowledge management and the team lead for CAEP. This is the information session for institutional and associate members interested in supporting countries through the Climate Action Enhancement Package. Today's information session is going to last approximately 1 hour. It will start with a presentation of what CAEP is, how you can engage through it, and will be followed by a Q&A session. So there will be ample time for questions at the end. If you do have any questions, please type them into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we will go through those at the end and ensure that we answer all of them. One thing to note, this webinar is being recorded. So if you have colleagues that are interested and weren't able to join, we will be posting it on our website, and so you'll be able to access it there. We will also be posting the PowerPoint presentation as well. Finally, we'd like to get a sense for who is joining us in this webinar today. So if you could please, in the Q&A or the chat function, type in the name of your institution, that would be most welcome. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to Pablo Vieira, the Global Director of the NDC Partnership Support Unit, who's going to lead this information session. Pablo, over to you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. So the idea, as Amanda has just explained, is to go through a presentation that will explain the Climate Action Enhancement Package, and will focus specifically on the roles and the requirements for potential implementing partners to support countries under this initiative. So let me start with a brief update on the partnership. Today we have 97 member countries, and the membership is growing weekly. We have countries representing every single region around the world, and we have countries joining every week, focusing on working with the partnership and its members on implementing their NDCs, and now on enhancing and producing better, more realistic, and more ambitious NDCs. We have also grown our membership in terms of our institutional members. These are mostly intergovernmental organizations, UN organizations, multilateral development banks, regional organizations, and organizations that specify in specific topics from all around the world that are dedicated and committed to supporting countries in the implementation of their climate priorities, and now on the preparation of new, more ambitious NDCs. Finally, we have also grown our associate members. We are now 14 associate members representing civil society. What we are seeing is that there's more activity on the ground and more support that is being provided through these members with countries, and that there's great relationship between associate members and governments, and great understanding of what's happening on the ground. So they have added huge value to the processes and to the offers of the partnership. We are now engaged in 50 countries around the world. The level of engagement varies from country to country. So we have certain countries where their implementation plan for their NDC or their partnership plan has been approved for over a year, and it's now under implementation. And we have others that are just starting the process. Governments that are preparing their implementation plans and that are defining their priorities, and where the partnership is matching their requests with available support, available resources. Out of this, 15 already have partnership plans or implementation plans, which are currently being implemented. And by the end of the year, we expect that another 15 will be added to the list, so reaching around 30 countries by the end of the year that are working on the implementation of their NDCs through the support of the NDC Partnership. So now let me move to the new offering under the NDC Partnership, the Climate Action Enhancement Package, or CAEP. So you are very much aware that climate change is one of the greatest challenges that we are facing in our time. And recent studies and news are very, very concerning and show us the level of the challenge that we're facing. Last year's 1.5 degree report from the IPCC and this year's IPBES report shows that climate change is affecting everyone's life in the planet. We're also reaching very high levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. We've reached the 415 ppm level, which shows that even though there's commitment by the governments under the Paris Agreement, that emissions are still in the rise and that we're reaching levels of CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere that are becoming extremely, extremely dangerous. But also we have great news. We have the youth mobilizing all around the world and pushing governments and pushing everyone to act and act now and act ambitiously. We also see that available resources and finance for climate action is at the highest point ever, and that renewable energy is today the cheapest option for energy generation. So these are great news, but are not at the scale and at the level that are required. So under the Paris Agreement, under the agreed process, there is what is called the ambition cycle or the NDC cycle, where countries have committed to increase their ambition every 5 years in order to reach the ultimate goals of the Paris Agreement. And this is the best opportunity that countries have to demonstrate their commitment and to mobilize the internal and external support that is required to achieve the ultimate goals of the Paris Agreement. A first critical milestone under this cycle is next year, 2020, where countries are invited to submit updated NDCs. And this is why the Climate Action Enhancement Package, or CAP, was designed as a new offering of the NDC Partnership that will deliver targeted fast-track support to countries to enhance the quality, to increase the ambition, and to fast-track the implementation of the NDCs, so that through these efforts, countries can catalyze resilient, sustainable, and low-emission development for their countries. So this initiative is designed so that countries get a clear and coherent signal in terms of letting them know that there's available resources for the development of new NDCs and for the implementation of these NDCs, the development of more ambitious and better NDCs and their implementations. So the NDC Partnership focuses on transmitting this very important signal. Countries should be confident when looking at their climate portfolios, when looking at their ambition, because there's available resources out there. And CAP specifically focuses on this ambition cycle and on the year 2020. It aims to assist countries in achieving two main objectives. The first one is the enhancement of their NDC, including by raising the ambition. And this is part of the Paris Agreement's NDC update process and will allow countries to submit updated, more ambitious NDCs to the UNFCCC by 2020. The second objective is more focused on fast-tracking the implementation of NDCs, of current NDCs and future NDCs, by providing in-country technical expertise and capacity building that specifically focuses on the mobilization of finance for climate action, private, public, national, international finance, unlocking the resources that are necessary for the big investments that will drive climate action. This initiative will aim at a balance between supporting both mitigation and adaptation. These are two priorities, and these two show increased ambition under the definition of CAP. And they will, and their support will be distributed along all the regions and representing all types of countries. So how will countries be eligible to receive support? We are inviting countries, developing member countries, to demonstrate their commitment to strong climate action and to demonstrate 4 eligibility criteria. The first one is they need to frame their requests for support around ambition. So they need to leverage support that is being provided through CAP to raise ambition in the update of their NDCs or through the implementation of their NDCs. The second one is countries need to demonstrate high-level commitment by all relevant actors across the government. So we're talking about the different ministries, the head of state offices, we're talking about the ministries of finance and planning being engaged, and of course, those ministries, those sectoral ministries that are responsible ultimately for the implementation of the actions included in an NDC. Third, whole of society approach. So in the same way that we're asking a whole of government approach, we want countries to demonstrate that all the relevant stakeholders on the ground, civil society, private sector, subnational governments, academia, research institutions, are engaged in the process of preparing and implementing new NDCs, and that they are including and they're mainstreaming gender equality in their processes, both for the preparation of the NDCs and the implementation of the NDCs. And finally, countries need to demonstrate that they're bringing together their climate efforts with the development efforts. They're demonstrating that they're bringing under a single umbrella, which is the Sustainable Development Umbrella, climate action, and their social and economic priorities. So they need to demonstrate direct linkages with national planning process, with budgeting processes, with sectoral strategies, and of course, with the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Interested countries who meet the eligibility criteria can now apply. The application opened last Monday, and they need to complete an online request for support form. This online form is only available for countries, but for information, we have included a PDF version in our webpage. So all of you, all implementing partners, all development partners, can actually look and understand what we're asking of countries. Countries will present only one application per country, and focal points are responsible for managing this application. All member countries' focal points have now received then an email with a login information for this unique form, and all requests for support must be received by Thursday, August 8th. So that is the deadline for this first call for proposals. Even though there's going to be another one in October, we have now set all the timeline for the first one, which gives countries 6 weeks, ending on August 8th. So getting into a little bit more specifics in terms of what we want and we expect from countries. For objective 1, in terms of enhancing NDCs, including through raising ambition, we are asking countries to provide strong requests with very concrete and detailed information that will allow potential implementing partners to understand what is the request, so that we can minimize the interaction and the questions back and forth in terms of what are you really asking for and what is it that you need. And we're asking them to include evidence that the revised NDC will result in higher ambition in terms of a significant positive impact on greenhouse gas emissions, or in terms of adaptation in improved resilience for vulnerable populations. We're also inviting countries to consider the existence or the preparation of long-term strategies or mid-term strategies, either sectoral or national or 2050 pathways, and make sure that they're aligning this with the revised NDCs. Also, countries should focus on high quality information in terms of the costs and benefits of their actions included in the NDCs, understanding not only the climate benefits and the environmental benefits, but also the social and economic co-benefits, and use macroeconomic modeling from the government to understand possible resources available for climate action and what the commitments need to be from each of the different sectors. So using relevant methodologies, models, and data to understand the economics of their commitments. Also, countries should focus on high quality and relevant data models and on the establishment of an MRV system that is adequate for climate action. And finally, if these countries are already engaged with the partnership, we are asking them to link the two processes. Even though CAEP is a parallel process to the regular country engagement process under the partnership, we don't want them to be disconnected. Of course, action on the ground on the implementation of current NDC has a significant impact on what will be included in the new NDC. So make sure that we bring both of them under a single umbrella. under the country engagement strategy. For the second objective being fast-tracking NDC implementation, we are asking countries to submit proposals that focus on capacity development that will lead to more effective deployment of finance. And this could include macroeconomic modeling, budgeting, financial strategies, investment plans, long-term strategy development, development of bankable projects and a pipeline of projects, and the establishment of enabling environments through the development of regulations and instruments. How will the support be delivered? Well, the idea is that CAEP will both leverage existing and new resources from our members that are directly provided by them, or through resources including the new technical assistance fund. So all members of the NDC Partnership are invited to commit support to requesting developing country members. So we're talking about development partners, we're talking about institutional members, we're talking about associate members that have the capacity, the interest, the willingness to support countries. We are encouraging all of you to come under the umbrella of CAEP so that countries can receive comprehensive support in a fast, easy way. Support will be delivered then through existing and new resources and expertise from NDC Partnership members. So some of our members already have platforms or facilities that are specially designed to support countries in the implementation or preparation of NDCs. So some of these institutions are dedicating some resources for this or strengthening their resources for this specific objective, which is to support countries in the development of new NDCs. This have to be resources that are flexible and that are readily available so that countries have enough time before the end of 2020 to prepare high quality NDCs. But if members have the knowledge, have the expertise, but don't have available resources, then they can apply to the Technical Assistance Fund. This Technical Assistance Fund is a pooled funding mechanism that has contributions from multiple development partners, which will allocate resources to institutional and associate members with the required expertise, but without available resources to respond to the requests. So after countries submit their requests on August 8th, the support unit will then evaluate all these requests, determine if countries are eligible to receive support based on the eligibility criteria that I already explained. And then we will circulate to all members of the partnership the requests that came from eligible countries. And then we invite potential implementing partners to review them and to commit to providing specific support to these actions. This process will start on the 23rd of August, when all of the potential implementing partners will receive the request from all the countries. And we are asking you to respond, to commit to providing support by September 6th. Then we will consolidate these responses and make sure that if there's any questions, any doubts, we facilitate conversation with countries or amongst different implementing partners that might be interested in providing support to the same country in the same areas. Just a note on the Technical Assistance Fund. The Technical Assistance Fund is hosted by the World Resources Institute. They manage the fund. They're in charge of the administrative part of the fund. And the support unit of the NDC Partnership is in charge of the programmatic part of the Technical Assistance Fund. So we will evaluate requests coming from institutional and associate members interested in accessing the Technical Assistance Fund. And once we determine who will provide support to which country in which activity, then that goes to WRI that takes care of the contractual part of the process. So in general terms, our institutional and associate members interested in providing support can opt for responding to country requests through different options. The options are here listed in order of priority, with options 2 to 4 applying only if no offer is made under option 1. So option 1 is implementing partners with resources from existing programs. So this is when potential implementing partners commits to providing support with their own resources. Option 2 is implementing partners that will co-finance using some funding from the Technical Assistance Fund. The third option is when that support will be completely financed through the Technical Assistance Fund. And the fourth option is the possibility for the support unit to fill gaps if necessary through providing technical assistance through the Technical Assistance Fund. Just to go back to my initial comment, if an institutional partner is able to provide the support from their own resources, that will be #1 priority, and will be prioritized over all other options. This way, to make sure that the Technical Assistance Fund will be used to provide support to those countries and to those institutions that don't have available resources, and make sure that we can use and provide as much support through the TAF as possible. All institutional and associate members of the partnership then are encouraged to support countries, ideally through their own resources, but also by applying to the Technical Assistance Fund if necessary. Support under option 1 needs to be deployed within 2 months of committing support. So if you already have the resources, we're asking you to provide support within 2 months of committing to provide it. For option 2 and 3, the time will be a little bit longer because you would have to go through the process with WRI to provide you with the grant. So this will probably result in a delay of 1 month, but after the funding is received, we expect you to start providing support within 2 months of that moment. Institutional associate members will have the possibility of applying their own criteria when deciding which countries and which activities to support. Of course, we would respect all your internal processes and decision-making. So if you are focused on a region, on a set of countries, on a set of activities, that's completely your prerogative. But we invite you to also align your decision-making process with what we're asking of countries. So looking at countries that will commit to higher ambition, both in mitigation and adaptation, looking at countries that are including their long-term strategies as a basis for the revision of NDCs, even if this means providing support for the development of these long-term strategies. Also focus on providing support for countries that will require support in determining the costs and the benefits and running macroeconomic modeling, or on preparing high quality data for decision making or establishing MRV systems. And of course, sorry, if you're already providing support through the partnership, through a partnership plan or a request for support letter, it's very important for you to make sure that there's coordination among the different support that you're providing to that specific country. So specifically talking about those that will go through options 2 and 3, so applying for resources included in the Technical Assistance Fund, there's also a set of criteria that will be applied by the support unit in evaluating these requests. These requests not from countries, but from the institutions that will apply for funding under TAF. The first one is you need to be a member. So only development partners, institutional members, and associate members that are members of the partnership are eligible to access TAF funding. This doesn't mean that if you as an institutional member receive a sub-grant, a grant from WRI, you cannot use local institutions like NGOs, like research institutes, like academia. So you would be able to sub-grant to other institutions of the grant, but the responsibility under TAF is for members only. The second one is we expect those who are applying to have relevant experience in the areas for which support is requested, and of course on the preparation of NDCs. So you would need to demonstrate that. Third, you would also need to demonstrate some kind of experience on the ground with these countries. So either current presence or history of work in that country, so that we can be certain that support will be provided in a fast way, and that there's already ongoing relationships between the institution and the country. The fourth one is speed. So the ability to deploy support within 2 months of receiving the funding. And the fifth one, sorry, is at the end of the day, it will be the country that decides if they are willing to get support from an implementing partner or not. And in the cases where more than one implementing partner is committed to providing support in a specific area, it will be the government that decides if one or the other will do it, or if both will do it. At this point, if you look at these 5 criteria, really what we would be asking of you is to demonstrate 2, 3, and 4. Of course, you must be a member, and that's a given. And of course, it will be the government that decides at the end of the day if they will receive support from the implementing partner. But you would need to demonstrate, and this is part of the process. After you receive all the requests, you will be asked to commit to supporting those requests. You will be asked to tell us if you would do it with your own resources or with TAF resources. You will be asked to tell us, if you're doing it through TAF, what is the cost of those actions. And finally, if you're accessing TAF also, you will be asked to provide proof that you are complying with this criteria. So, as I was saying, what we're asking from potential implementing partners is to complete an online form that will be circulated on August 23rd, which includes all the requests coming from all the countries from the first call for proposals. And we expect you to provide those answers to those requests by September 6th. General guidelines for this: if you are not asking for support through TAF, you will be given preference. Second, when applying, your chances to access TAF funding, technical assistance funding, will be higher if you're able to bundle multiple activities together. So if, for example, you're going to provide similar support in several countries, then we can bundle that into one single grant that will reduce the transaction cost, that will reduce the overhead, and that will give you a higher probability of being eligible. Also, we are asking each of the institutions to have one focal point available even through August and September to answer questions from the support unit, from countries, and of course to join coordination calls if necessary with the countries. And we want to go through the process of institutionally vetting as soon as possible. This is a process that is led by WRI, but we as a support unit are facilitating. You received maybe 10 days ago an email from us asking if you were interested in providing support through CAEP, and if you would be interested in applying for TAF funding to start the process. We hope that by August 1st, all of the institutional members that will be accessing TAF would be already vetted, so that we can reduce the transaction time in terms of creating the grant and dispersing directly resources to you from WRI. Once we have received on September 6th your responses in terms of your commitments to provide support to countries, the support unit will be consolidating all of these responses and determining what support is being pledged in each country. As I said before, if more than one member wants to support a specific activity for a country, we will then facilitate a conversation with the country, trying to find synergies, divide labor amongst them, or if the country wants, picking one over the other. We will apply implementing partner screening criteria, the one I just shared with you, to identify eligible institutional and associate members that can access the technical assistance fund. And after that, we will prepare country-specific terms of reference that will include the specific actions included in the requests, which implementing partners are going to support which of those activities, and the specific division of labor amongst different implementing partners for the approval of governments. So as I said before, governments will receive these terms of references and will have the final saying in approving them. This will be the document that will allow us to to follow up on the implementation of the concrete actions. So both the governments and the implementing partners and the support unit will use these terms of reference as the guiding document for the actual implementation of these actions over the next months. Let me then end with a few important dates so that you understand where we are in the process and what are the next important dates. The co-chairs of the NDC Partnership, Netherlands and Costa Rica, formally launched the initiative, the CAEP initiative, and the first call for requests last Sunday in Abu Dhabi during the preparatory meeting for the Climate Summit in September. On August 8th, the first call for support request ends, with countries having to submit the request before that. Then we will, as a support unit, work on those requests, determining eligibility. I go back to countries to request further information or clarifications before we share all of the requests with potential implementing partners on August 23rd. Then potential implementing partners will have until September 6th to determine which activities they will be able to support and under which of the different options. We aim to start providing all support, start deploying all support by November. We will have a second call for requests that will take part in October, probably second week during pre-COP. And if resources are still available, we will look into a possible third call for requests after that. But of course, our main focus is to provide enough time for countries to prepare good NDCs, high quality NDCs, more ambitious NDCs, and the more time they have, the better. And of course, the more time you have as implementing partners to deliver the support, the better. So we are hoping that we'll get the highest amount of requests coming through this first call for proposals. Finally, some keys to success. This is something that should be the objective and the aim of all the partnership so that we can together be successful in this endeavor. The first is we're asking countries to prioritize and be very specific in terms of what they're asking for. And we don't want a huge list of actions. We want them to focus on those actions that have the highest impacts and those that require the most support. And of course, you might be talking to countries at some point in terms of some of these actions. So it's very important for them to have clarity in terms of what is a priority action. Second, get buy-in from key stakeholders first. We're asking them to have a whole of government, whole of society approach. So bringing them into the process of preparing their request will be fundamental. Consider planning and development priorities. So bringing both the climate and the development agendas together so that benefits, co-benefits can be identified and so that buy-in from different stakeholders can be secured before requesting support. Reflecting on areas where it has been hard to obtain support in the past. So look at your challenges in terms of mobilization of resources so that maybe through CAEP, those can be met. Seek to address challenges in the first round of NDC preparation and implementation. Countries learned a lot from the first round. A lot of them prepared NDCs with little time, with little capacity, without the buy-in from all stakeholders across the ground. So this is an opportunity to do a better job. So learning from those, and of course, many of you provided support to countries. So again, you also learned from that process. So let's make sure that countries do a good job this time, that they get all that they need to have a high quality NDC so that it can be also implementable and that resources can be easily mobilized for its implementation. And finally, and most importantly, this should be an opportunity to raise ambition. Even though many of the members, many of the countries do not have to increase their ambition in this first round, in this first cycle, as they had already submitted NDCs for 2030. The Secretary General has made it very clear that we need to push for higher ambition now. And the only way that we can achieve higher ambition is if countries feel that there is available support there is available support for them to increase their ambition in preparing their NDCs and implementing their NDCs. And that depends on us, on the side that can provide that support. So it's an encouragement for all of you to commit to this process, to make sure that you have available resources and to prepare you to access money from TAF as soon as possible so that countries can be confident in terms of their possibilities of mobilizing resources for the implementation of their new NDCs if they are more ambitious. So thank you very much for your time. We would be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Please, if you have any doubts or you want to get more information, including the PDF form and the details in terms of eligibility criteria, you can go to our webpage, www.ndcpartnership.org/CAEP, C-A-E-P, or you can write to us in our dedicated email address, caapcap@ndcpartnership.org. So I see we have a few questions, one question at this point. So let me go through it. And of course, if there's more questions, please let us know what you want to know. So how much money is available in the Technical Assistance Fund? So this is still an ongoing process where our co-chairs, Costa Rica and the Netherlands, are reaching out to different development partners to try to secure their commitment to TAF. The co-chairs set as a base for TAF $15 million. There's already commitments from the Netherlands, from Germany, from Norway under TAF. And there's ongoing conversations with others like the UK, like Sweden, like Denmark. So I don't have at this point a figure, but I have to say that this will be a dynamic process. If we see that there's a lot of success, a lot of applications to TAF, the co-chairs will go back to the different potential donors and ask for more money. If we demonstrate together that this is an effective way to support countries, of course, we will try to get more resources available. So we will update you in the coming weeks after we can secure the available funding from the different interested donors. I'm giving you a couple of minutes more. At this point, I'm not seeing any other questions. Please, if you have any, just go to your chat, the chat function, or to the Q&A, and I'll be happy to respond. Okay, we got one more. Evidence that revised NDCs will result in a significant positive impact. Exactly what is the role of CAP-TAF here? If countries already know this, they can include in NDC. The larger problem is countries getting the evidence. Yes, very much agree. When we say this, we're basically asking countries for their commitment to find ways to increase the ambition. We're not asking them to prove that they already have ways to increase their ambition. Much of the support that will be provided will lead to those numbers. So we're not asking what is your new percentage in terms of reduction of emissions. We're asking them to explain how they will look maybe at new sectors, how they would look at a stronger adaptation component, how they would look at better quality information, how they would look at different ways of unlocking higher ambition through this process. So, of course, we have to trust the applicants. We have to trust the governments in their commitment. But we understand that in many cases, the actual values and the actual commitment will come up later in the process. Yeah, so this is in many cases all the eligibility criteria that we have for governments that can access TAF. This is something that we want the countries to think about, that we want to make sure that they're taking into account. And for example, when we talk about whole of government approach, even though we're suggesting that they provide letters from the different ministries in terms of supporting this process, it's not a requirement. But they need to explain how they're engaging and involving other stakeholders. And we need to make sure during the implementation, and this is something that goes directly to the responsibility of the implementing partners, that this is actually going on, that you're not just dealing with the Ministry of Environment, for example, that you see buying from across the different sectors, and that you're actually working with the governments with a vision and a commitment to higher ambition. Well, thank you very much. for being here. We will be waiting for any other concerns, any other comments coming from you through our webpage, through our email address. Once again, we invite you to actively participate in CAEP. If you would like to apply for TAP funding, get your process of vetting through WRI started as soon as possible. If you have any questions, we can answer them very quickly. If you did not receive our email and with the information, let us know immediately. We would be happy to provide that information and support you through the process. And most importantly, align your efforts internally to be able to provide this very important support over the next 18 months. Because if we can generate the confidence in our member countries that there is available support, then we will definitely see the needle moving in terms of their commitment.